Hey gang, welcome back to another video. If you've been a follower of my channel for any length of time, you've seen me cover the topic of faux patina. At least twice. Well, I'm tackling the patina once again for a Tower of Terror related project that needs a bit of weathering but doesn't need to look quite so blue-green. So if you've got a haunt sign or maybe another prop that needs a bit of patina but you still want it to look like metal, this is the technique for you. Let's get started. I got the design from fellow maker Donald Dean, who's been building an amazing Tower of Terror room for a client in Las Vegas. They've been documenting his work on the YouTube channel Tower of Terror Theater, and it's definitely worth checking out. I pulled the design into Adobe Illustrator and created a scalable vector graphic, or SVG, which could be read by my Glowforge, and I started to cut it out of 1/8 inch MDF. The Glowforge is great for projects like this, since cutting this by hand would have taken days instead of minutes. With everything cut out, it was time to glue it all together. And for this I'm using CA glue and these 1-2-3 blocks to help make sure the outer frame is properly aligned. Then it's on to gluing in all the letters. I was able to score the surface of the MDF in the Glowforge to help with placement of all the cut parts. It made this step in the process much easier, since typically I'd create a stencil to help with alignment. Once I have all the parts glued down and dry, it was time to seal the MDF. For this I'm using Mod Podge spray in a matte finish. I'll brush it around to make sure that I've got consistent coverage before applying a few extra coats to keep the MDF from absorbing the paint in future steps. When I know the Mod Podge is dry, it's time to base coat the sign with a bit of black spray paint. And after a quick pass with the hairdryer to speed up the drying process, I thinned out some brushed bronze acrylic paint and coated the entire sign using my airbrush. The airbrush really helps to get into the recesses of the letters, where a brush would be much more time consuming. Plus it doesn't leave behind brush strokes. Now I'm not too worried if this bronze top color is a bit patchy, since it'll help the aged look that I'm going for. Speaking of aging, I grabbed some brown acrylic paint and mixed a bit of the bronze paint into it before dabbing it across the surface of the sign to help layer in some more age and character. Because it was such a warm day, I should have wet down the surface with water first to help extend the dry time of the paint, but I was able to work it across the surface and into the corners to get it looking how I wanted without the paint drying out too quickly. After the paint had a chance to dry, I grabbed some satin clear coat to lock in this layer of paint, and then we can move on to adding the patina. The first step in this process is to add in a darker patina layer. In this case, I'm using this aqua acrylic paint that I'll add to the spray bottle full of water. There's no real ratio of paint to water that I use consistently. It's just kind of a feel that you get for how the paint runs down your sign and how opaque it is as it dries. If it's not standing out enough for you, add a bit more paint. If it's too heavy, spray it down with water and then add more paint to your spray bottle. Then it's just a matter of spraying down the surface to create drips and runs that will give this sign its darkest patina layer. To get really concentrated areas, I switched over to a brush and applied paint in specific spots. This is a bit of a different approach from my other patina videos, since the metal paint was typically just a highlight and not meant to really shine through the weathering. Apply, let it dry, and repeat until you've built up this first color to a level that you're happy with. When the first layers had a chance to fully dry, it's time to switch over to our lighter color. I like this Patina acrylic for this layer. It's very pale and will provide just the right amount of contrast from the darker aqua paint and give the sign that kind of faded, dusty look that a lot of old metal signs tend to get from exposure to the elements. And just like the first patina color, this will also get added to the spray bottle and will be applied to the entire sign. If you find the paint isn't drying fast enough or is pooling in places you don't want, you can use a hairdryer to encourage the paint to move out of those areas and dry at the same time. When I'm happy with how it's looking, I'll give it another quick coat of satin clear to lock in the patina, and then I can move on to bringing some of that bronze color back into the sign. For this, I'll dry brush some of the bronze metallic paint onto the edges and tops of the letters and the outer border of the sign. It'll warm up the weathering a bit and help to reinforce that the sign is metal. It's one of those weird touches that if it wasn't there, it would somehow look off. The great part about this step is it can kind of be a little messy, so you don't need to worry about getting even coverage. In fact, if it's uneven, it'll look a bit more authentic. The last step in this process is to darken some of the corners and letters, and for this I'm using a bit of wax paint. I'll mix up a light brown from this semi-clear and brown wax so that it's not too heavy, and we'll apply it with a chip brush before wiping most of it away with a rag. I'm using wax paint because it gives me more time to really work the paints around before they set up. And they kind of mimic oil paints, which are great for aging props, but can take a long time to dry. These wax paints also help to warm up the sign a bit more and give it a better overall appearance. We're looking for layering in our faux paint jobs, which takes more time, but pay dividends in the end product. Now that's a sign worthy of the Hollywood Tower Hotel. You know, they always say the devil is in the details, and if you can nail this technique, it is one detail that will convince even the most discerning haunted attraction goer. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, but most importantly, go make something.